You're watching Pittsburgh Steelers Talk, and before we get into our latest mailbag, I am once again asking for your questions/ideas. If you want to be featured on a future Steelers mailbag, it's a simple two-step process. Number one, you got to be subscribed. That way you'd know when we're asking for your questions. And number two, put your questions in the comments using hashtag Steelers. Today's Pittsburgh Steelers mailbag is presented by Aura, all-in-one digital safety to help keep you safe online, since we all use online services more and more. Don't let your financial or identity information get compromised. Start with a free 14-day trial. Cancel at any time at aura.com/chatsports. That link will be in the comments section and in the description. All right, our first question from Dominic Schrader. Personally, I'm not paying Diontae Johnson. Deontae's money goes to Minkah, and Devin Bush's money goes to Miles Jack. Offense is young/inexperienced. Defense is still young, but older/experienced. Defense has to support the offense. We'll get to that back half in a little bit, because I do think you've got the two sides pretty well done. Now, Minkah, of course, did get his money. This comment actually came in before Minkah got paid, but we have the details now since we broke that down, and you all watched that video because you're subscribed. 4 years, $73.6 million. Frankly, if and when Deonte Johnson gets paid by Pittsburgh, I would anticipate him getting more per year than what Minkah did, because that's how the markets work at the respective positions. I think we could make a real argument Minkah's the best safety in the NFL. He's now paid as such. Even the biggest Deonte Johnson truthers, and I like Deonte Johnson. He's a good football player. I don't think we would argue he's the best receiver in the NFL. I don't even think we could argue he's the best receiver in the AFC North at this point. We can definitely make that case for Minkah. But I will point this out. If you want to pay Deonte Johnson, the salary cap is not stopping you. I'm not saying you have to go full-fledged Los Angeles Rams, F them picks, and throw money around, because Pittsburgh takes a more longer view of how they want to be proactive with their salary cap. They don't want to go too far into a 2, 3, 4, 5-year window or whatever. They take a longer approach. So I'm not saying go full-fledged Rams, but if you want Deonte Johnson, there's nothing stopping you. You mentioned, Dominic, how the offense is young and inexperienced. They've invested no money on the offensive side of the football. Draft picks, yes. Their highest paid offensive player this year, salary cap-wise, is the kicker. They have not put money into the offensive side of the football. So if they want to invest in receiver, they absolutely can. Now, again, they're non-cheap guys. They're like the right side of the line, James Daniels, Chuck Scorefor, combined for like $9 million in the salary cap. They're super cheap on offense. If they want to, they can pay Deonte Johnson, since in large part his deal would wind down as, in theory, your quarterback contract for Kenny Pickett comes up. Now, when it comes to offense, defense, what's more important for winning a Super Bowl? Type in O for the offense, D for the defense. I used to be a defensive guy. In the modern day NFL, although you need a top 5 unit on one side, I would rather have the top 5 unit on offense. But I want to hear from you. This is the pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad break comes on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there, type in O for offense or D for defense. From Kyle Daughtery, next up here, should the Steelers go out and sign any more free agents that could possibly help with depth, or even potentially starting, or simply wait until cuts? For example, J.C. Tretter. I know Cole and Green are there, but using Tretter as an example for free agency. There are players out there who could come in and help the Steelers organization right away. We also should remember this. In general, the NFL is very ageist. They don't like paying old guys when they could find a younger guy who's cheaper for a similar level of production. But Kyle, to really answer your question more in depth, we have a video for you on that right here on Pittsburgh Steelers Talk. 5 free agents who they could sign right now in free agency and start. So check out that video. I'll make sure it's in the description as well. And subscribe. That way you don't miss out on any Steelers video. Make sure those notifications are set to all. back to your question on J.C. Tretter. Yeah, I mean, he could definitely start. It seems like Pittsburgh's going to ride with Mason Cole at center, and then in theory, Green's the swing offensive lineman. The spot that worries me the most about this Steelers team is the offensive line. I know we've got another question coming up on that side of the ball, but first let's tell you guys about Aura. They offer financial fraud protection, identity theft protection, and online and device security for you or up to 5 members of your family. If you're like everyone but the Amish, you shop, bank, and work online more than ever. And you should do that safely and privately so your information doesn't get compromised. So head over to Aura today for a free 14-day trial that you can cancel at any time. Aura.com/chatsports. That link will be in the comments section and in the description. From Vincent, predictions on signing Eric Fisher. What are the chances of that happening? First off, shout out Vincent, who I know is a Noti Gang member here at Chat Sports. You're almost always the first person to comment on a particular video. Everyone be like Vincent and make sure you're subscribed here at Serious Talk, and throw in Vincent if you want. Just type Vincent in the comments. Anyway, back to your question on Eric Fisher, the stuff you guys care about. I'm not going to get my hopes up. I am a bit surprised Fisher has remained unsigned as we reach the midpoint of June with training camps roughly a month away. I thought he would have found a starting job by now. At this point, he might have to contend for a backup or competition type of role. I would have interest in him. It seems to me like Pittsburgh is a little bit more intrigued of giving Dan Moore a second year to see if he can break out in year 2. So I would not rule it out. But I also don't have my hopes up either. What do you think? What do you want Pittsburgh to do? What should they do? Should they go sign Eric Fisher? Type in Y for yes or type in N for no. From DJ KJ, what Pittsburgh Steelers players, present or past, do you think could come back and play for the Steelers again? So I feel like that's only past if they're not there, but maybe you meant like active players versus like unsigned guys. So the one we'll begin with is Juju Smith-Schuster. We'll talk about this on a future video since Juju himself expressed interest in potentially returning to the organization at some point. That feels like a future issue with the way Pittsburgh has invested in their receiving core. I don't see it as a big need, especially if they end up paying Deonte Johnson. Between Johnson, Claypool, George Pickens, Calvin Austin, not that big of a need, so not worried about him. The name I'd actually keep an eye out for as soon as next year is Bud Dupree. There is a very real possibility that Alex Highsmith has another good year, and Pittsburgh simply chooses not to afford him because they've spent so much money on Cam Hayward, potentially on a Miles Jack, on Minkah Fitzpatrick, on TJ Watt. They don't want to pay Alex Highsmith, and he gets a Bud Dupree-style bag from somebody else next or in the future offseason. Dupree could be cut as soon as next year for Tennessee. And in that scenario, going back home to Pittsburgh actually could make a lot of sense for all parties involved. If Highsmith also gets paid somewhere else, you bring back Dupree at a much cheaper cost, and maybe it's a one-year prove-it deal for him to ball out. That would actually be the name getting way deep into my crystal ball that is worth keeping an eye out for. Really, Jeremy? Antoine? I think Antonio Brown will try to retire as a Steeler. I don't see any way in which he comes back and actually plays again for Pittsburgh because beyond the stuff we're talking about with Juju, he's a crazy person. So, who is your all-time favorite Steelers player? Can be a guy playing right now or a retired player. Which Steelers player do you love the most? Sound off for me in the comments section. From J. Perry YT with, I believe, a Najee Harris profile picture, right on cue from that last question. How many rookies will make the roster / start and who? So obviously Kenny Pickett's going to make this team. The two names who I am uncertain if they make it are your 7th-round picks, Mark Jackson, the linebacker, and then also Chris Olajuwon, the quarterback. If they don't make the team, they're probably practice squad guys. Not that many picks this year compared to some other teams for Pittsburgh. So Mark Robinson. I might have misspoke on the linebacker's name. I'm not going to get into the UDFAs too much, but guys like a Chris Steele and maybe one of those UDFA Running backs, Mateo Durant, Jalen Warren, also decent names to keep an eye out for. Impact-wise, beyond, of course, rookie Kenny Pickett, who at some point we all know is going to emerge as a starter, I think George Pickens gets starting reps for you in year one, even if he's wide receiver 3, quote-unquote, when they go to 2 receiver sets. Could be Claypool and Johnson then. Keep an eye out for Calvin Austin. I know they have other punt returners, George Olszewski Gunnar Olszewski kind of filling that role for them. I think Austin could do that role, kick or punt returners pretty well. Long term, I want him to be the slot guy. With the retirement of Stephon Tuitt, DeMarvin Leal is primed for a bigger role unless Chris Wormley, Montravis Adams helps beat him out there. And Connor Hayward, I think, could emerge quickly as kind of a fullback, tight end, H-back hybrid player. Maybe he's tight end 3 early on, but I do think he makes the team as well. Remember, folks, if you have Steelers questions, put them in the comment section by using hashtag Steelers right now.